The Paul Leslie Interviews.
I waited a long time to interview the legendary Greg Fingers Taylor. Here we are on the eve of my 25th birthday, and I sit down with the Harpoon Man. How you doing, Fingers?
I'm doing good. Out here in the hills of Georgia, playing some music for some people and eating some good food. It's good to see you.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it. I wanted to get back to kind of your roots. You come from Jackson, Mississippi.
That's right. I wasn't born there. I was born in Wichita, Kansas. And I was in Wichita basically till I was 14 years old. I'm 54 now. Wichita was actually a pretty good R&B town at that point. There was a guy named Mike Finnegan who played the organ. It was my hero. He played the B3 organ. I used to go see him play all the time. Lots of great musicians came through Wichita, R&B players like Sam and Dave and Wilson Pickett, and played the Cotillion Ballroom there. So I finally moved to, but before I moved from Wichita, I became a big Beatles fan. I had me and my two compadres, Dave and Dan, and we tried everything to meet girls, you know, and we joined the track team. We weren't very good at that, and played some baseball. We weren't very good at that. So we began to hear these Beatles guys, the Dave Clark Five, and a lot of the English invasion bands on the radio. And they were all basically R&B based units, you know what I mean? So I was hearing that, especially the Dave Clark Five. They had a sax player, they had a real big sound, the drums were turned up loud, and I liked that. So I formed a band with my guys, and we met girls, and we had fun, and I don't know how good we were at that point, but we sure loved the music a lot. And somewhere in there, when I was about 15 or 16, I started listening to blues records. Muddy Waters, Little Walter Jacobs, Sonny Boy Williamson, 1 and 2, there were 2 of them. And I just loved the way that the music sounded, you know, and got deep off into the blues. And I ended up in Jackson, Mississippi. And I was 14 when we moved, and I was so excited because I was going to where the Delta blues came from, to the Mississippi Delta, right around Jackson, Mississippi, where I was from. So anyway, I learned to love the blues, and I started a little blues band when I was in high school in Jackson, and just sort of went from there. And the instrument that I really liked to hear was the harmonica. I thought it was a very expressive instrument. And, it was a little different. And also, at one of the Battle of the Bands we had, the guy in the band that won blew a little harmonica and drove everybody crazy just by the sound of it. Didn't play very good, but I filed that away. And once I got down to college at the University of Southern Mississippi in Hattiesburg, I was pretty well blowing the harmonica all the time, and I carried it around with me. That was another thing, because my nickname, Fingers, came from being a keyboard player back when I was in high school. But then I largely became a harmonica player, so I kind of got the wrong name. You know, it should have been Lips or something like that. But down at Southern, I learned how to play the harp. I sat around in like the stairwells on the weekend. At the university, there weren't many people there. There weren't many people there on the weekend. So I would play and practice, and I formed a little band down there, and just one thing led to another. And then this guy, Jimmy Buffett, came through one time when I was in my sophomore year. And he was playing what we called the Union Building there, which was basically a couple of soda machines, a PA that didn't hardly work, and a couple of beat-up microphones, you know. And so by that point, I was jamming with a lot of the groups that came through at Southern, at the big Coliseum we had there. And I played with Delaney and Bonnie and the Dirt Band and Black Oak, Arkansas, and just about anybody who came through town. I got up on the big stage for the first time. So then I was definitely hooked. And Buffett was playing that night at the Union Building one night, and I sat down, and there were three little old ladies on break from night class, and that was it. And Buffett, with a big 10-gallon hat on. Back then he had lots of hair. We all did. And he was singing Why Don't We Get Drunk, and to three little old ladies for Hattiesburg Housewives, you know, on break for quilting class or something. I don't know. Anyway, we hooked up over the next week. He had a week-long gig there, and I started playing every night with him. And by the third or fourth night, we were selling the house out. And so we kind of realized that we had something together that neither one of us had apart, and that it was a good combination. He wanted somebody who could play more solos. He was never a solo guitar player. You know, he was a folky strummer, you know, and a good one. But he didn't play lead guitar, so I took up the lead spots on the harmonica. And you know, more time ensued. I went back to Little Rock. Jimmy eventually wound up in Nashville. I wound up in Memphis, where I was part of a band called Larry Raspberry and the High Steppers. We were we were on Stax Records, and we did one album. Stax was unfortunately getting ready to go bankrupt by the time we hooked up with the company. But anyway, I went on the road with Larry Raspberry and the High Steppers, left college, started up in about 1972 is when we first hit the road, I believe. And we toured the United States and had a ball, played with a lot of great musicians. We almost kind of made it big, you know, but Stax was, like I said, going under. And meanwhile, Jimmy and I had kept up with each other, and I had gone on a few gigs with him, acoustic gigs, just the two of us, while I was still in school at Southern. And he would, even when I was with Larry Raspberry and on the road all the time, when he got ready to do his records for ABC Dunhill, the first 3 or 4 records, he called me up for all those sessions, no matter where I was. Time for a new album, he would fly me into Nashville. And I got to play with all the great Nashville players, you know, Vassar Clements and just a bunch of great players. So, anyway, in about 1975, or late 74, the High Steppers were about to break up. Stax was going under, the record company. But Buffett was just getting cranked up, and he was had 3 albums behind his belt by then. And he said, "You want to go on the road? I got a bus." It wasn't like a real fancy one like we wound up with years and decades later, but it was a bus, and we had bunks in it so we could sleep and just keep moving. So I quit college altogether and hit the highway, and I've been out there ever since. You know, I took a couple of breaks at points just to get off the road and get my health back every now and then. It's a grueling existence. But at any rate, you know, and I continued just to pursue the harmonica in a whole lot of different ways. And the guy who really made a difference for me and a lot of other Chicago-style harmonica players was a guy named Little Walter Jacobs. And I totally got off into Little Walter. He's still the king, man. I mean, nobody ever really beat what he did in the 50s. And he was actually a star back then. It was unusual for a harmonica player to be a big star. At any rate, it, you know, it just kept on rolling, and I worked on with Buffett through many, many more albums, and I decided to leave him in 2001 to be with my family. I had 2 new baby boys. They're now 7 and 8 years old, Hunter and Steven. And I just wanted to be home more. I think Jimmy and I were both a little tired of each other, and it was a good time to take a break. And in those years, the years following up to, you know, just recently, I went back and played with Buffett again for the first time since 2001. I did a show with him in Cincinnati at Riverbend Coliseum, and then I wound up in the studio with him in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, where they were working on his new record, one that'll be out in October, and also a soundtrack for a movie called Hoot. It's a children's movie that he was in and produced. So I'm going to be seeing him in a couple of weeks in Detroit, and I'll be probably get up on stage again, and then he has some things he wants to talk to me about. He's breaking ground for a casino in Las Vegas, his own casino. And there's a chance that I might get to have a little piece of that deal as a little Fingers Taylor type of club.
Yeah.
So, and have my buddies come through, and I don't know not anything about running a club, but I could have somebody who did know, and then I could just sort of be the figurehead, and and I'd know who to hire and who not to. I know who's good. So that may happen. We'll see. We'll know something more in a few weeks.
Well, I wanted to ask you, what is it that you think makes the blues the blues? For me, it's always been a feeling.
Yep.
It's a feeling, and to me, I told you this in Key West one time. Your music has gotten me into a lot of trouble in the past.
Good.
Because, I live in Athens. It's hard to go to class when you hear the blues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
Because you feel like drinking another beer.
That's right.
You feel like maybe smacking the backside of a woman you've never met.
Well, that's true.
So, what is it that attracted you to the blues?
Man, I don't know for sure. I think that I identified with the soul and the feeling that was involved in that music. I love the simplicity of it, the expressiveness. And, when I was still 14 and 15, I went through a kind of a traumatic time with a girlfriend of mine, and that kind of stuff. But I felt really down, and when I listened to the blues records, I felt better.
Yeah.
So I said, this is kind of cool. And I guess I was probably like trying to drown in my own sorrow or something. But then later, I began to appreciate the blues as a happy music, regardless if it's a sad song.
Right.
I'm talking the way the beat goes, the jump. I want to get up and dance. I want to have fun. I want to blow my harp. I want to listen to the blues, dance to the blues. So I think it's therapeutic music.
Yeah.
It'll cure your blues.
It's like the Keith Sykes song, Advanced Medication for the Blues.
There you go. That's right, man.
Well, tell us about Keith. You and Keith are buddies.
Yeah.
And he certainly is a hell of a songwriter.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me about Keith.
Well, Keith came on board as a choral Reefer. He was always like a friend of Buffett's and Jerry Jeff Walker's down in Key West and in the inner circle that Buffett had down there. And a great songwriter always. But he joined up with the band at about 76, 77, about the time we did Volcano. And he went down to Montserrat at George Martin's studio with us and James Taylor and Huey Taylor and Livingston Taylor, all the Taylor brothers. And we made the album Volcano, which is like one of the great times of our lives. It was a real special time. It was like being a caveman again. There was something about that place. It was like, you wanted to go down in your loincloth, go, rah, rah, rah. So, and we made a lot of good music down there. It was a real inspiring place. And Keith was in on all that. And, of course, he wrote, the great song Close to Marseille.
Yeah.
I just saw Keith in New Orleans like 2 weekends ago. They were having a songwriter convention. And I have a guy that I play with in Columbus, Ohio named Ken Moore, who's a folk singer, acoustic player. And he got us booked down there at the songwriter convention this year. And Keith was working the same deal. So we all ran into each other. And Keith and I played together for the first time in many years. Just the two of us. We did Coast to Marseille and, the whole 9 yards. It was great. We had a ball. He's doing good. One of the great songwriters, and a great Memphian. And he could be a real rocker, too. He did some rocking stuff. A lot of his solo records were rock and roll records. He's also the first guy that ever introduced me to a song called Jackson Police. It was written by a friend of his up north of Memphis named John Kilser. Still a great songwriter. He's still around. And Keith was producing some sides on me at that time at Arden Studios in Memphis. So he he brought the song in, and we cut it like in one take, and, and I ended up, I've done it a couple of different ways, but the one that Keith produced is never really truly been released. The one I ended up doing that was released was on my solo record called Chest Pains, that was produced by McAnally in the early 80s. I hear there's going to be a big time in Key West this year because Jerry Jeff's coming down, Jerry Jeff Walker. I think Buffett is maybe coming to Key West. It's called the Meeting of the Minds, that. So, and Keith will be there, Buffett, Jerry Jeff, Hugo Duarte, I'm sure Jeff Pike, all Parrot Head singers, people will be there. It's going to be a good time.
There's a guy I've been listening to that you kind of ran with for a while, and I really started appreciating him. His name is Tim Krekel.
Oh yeah.
And you've written some songs with Tim.
Yep.
And you have a lot in common, I guess.
Yeah, we do. Tim he entered the Coral Reefer band about 1976. And I had been hanging out with him in Nashville some, so I knew who he was, and I talked Buffett into hiring him. And he was a great asset to the band. He's a great songwriter, a great rocker. And Tim and I are actually playing together in a couple weekends at a blues festival over in Kentucky. So we're going to get to do it all over again, have a little fun for a couple days. And Krekel's doing great, man. He still writes a lot of songs in Nashville. He's got, in fact, a new song just done that he wrote with a guy named Danny O'Keefe, the guy that wrote Mr. Charlie's Got the Blues. And it's going to be released on a Alan Jackson record. And it came at a good time because he just lost his publishing deal, his long-time publishing deal. But Krekel's got him a cut now. He's got him a cut, got him a hit. So that's good news.
What kind of music in your spare time? What's the stuff that's in
my collection?
Your collection. What do you like?
Well, man, I like a lot of areas of black music. Of course, I like the blues and soul and funk, and I just listen to a lot of stuff. I listen to a lot of hillbilly music, white country music, very old-timey stuff. I love bluegrass. I like a lot, as long as they're, roots music. As long as it's roots music, I could identify with that, In fact, when I was in college for a while, way back at the University of UALR, Little Rock, and my first brother-in-law to be, was a banjo picker, and he turned me on to bluegrass and got me started on the whole deal. And we used to, on the weekends, we would go up to a place called Mountain Home, Arkansas, and all the great bluegrass players from miles around would come every Saturday night to play at the courthouse on the lawn. And so I got into bluegrass, learned how to play all that kind of stuff. I still go back and listen to the blues a lot. It's just, it's kind of my schooling. I'm probably going to be doing a lot of that woodshedding kind of thing here coming up before I go play in Wilmington, North Carolina, and Richmond coming up in about 3 weeks. And that's going to be with Magic Dick, the guy who was with the Jay Giles band, great harmonica player. Also another great harmonica player from the West Coast named Mark Hummel. And his band are going to be the backup band. And the three of us are going to, do a couple of shows over that part of the country. So I'm really looking forward to that. I got to go do get my chops together because these guys don't fool around.
As far as harmonica players go, as a blues harp player, who would you have to give the respect to?
Oh, it would definitely be Little Walter. And as far as living harmonica players, it would be Kim Wilson with the Fabulous Thunderbirds, who's also the stepfather to my boys and a good friend for many, many, many years. And he is as close as you'll get to Little Walter of anybody alive, without a doubt. Incredible harp player. But there's all kinds of harmonica players. So we were talking about earlier about Howard Levy. He is just a monster harmonica player. I'm trying to remember, what was the name of that band that he was with for so many years? Oh, gosh, let me see. I'm getting distracted by these people. Oh man, you know what it is. Anyway, the guy's a phenomenal harmonica player. He doesn't really, he's not a blues player, but he can like take one C harmonica and blow up and down it and do all the scales. He overblows, sort of like the guy in Blues Travel, John Popper. Yeah. But Levy can just take this and just walk it up all the way. That means you got to overblow the low notes, which is almost impossible to do. A lot of those high notes that you hear me playing on the end, like on Tampico Trauma, that's overblowing. But that's on the higher 4 or 5 notes, and it's an easier bend. But Levy bends them on the bottom and gets he probably gets 2 or 3 scales out of one tiny blues harp, you know. So, I mean, and there's new guys coming up all the time. There's guys around. I mean, it's still a very vital instrument, you know, and people seem to, their personality comes out for such a small instrument.
Yeah.
It really does assume someone's personality, or vice versa, you know what I mean? So that it's a real personal kind of instrument. I liked it originally because I got my nickname Fingers from being a keyboard player. And you know, I told you the story about hearing the guy blow the harp at the Battle of Bands and stuff. And then later on, I got so tired of lifting big B3 organs and pianos upstairs so that we could go play. That was before they had portable stuff. So it just became a lot easier for me to stick that harmonica in my pocket. I could practice anytime I wanted, you know. It was easy. It was portable.
As far as the future goes, do you intend to put out another record, or?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's in the very, very, very beginning stages, but I already have several ideas about who I want to use. There's a great blues band in Nashville, Mike Henderson and the Blue Bloods, and I'm thinking about using them for the basic band. And then I'll probably have several of my buddies come in. Kim Wilson was what produced my last record. We did that in Ann Arbor, and I might fly him to Nashville to produce part of this one. So, I'm just slow to do it. And I tell you what, I'm really lucky this summer and the spring and the fall is turning out to be such a busy time. The money's been good, which we all needed as players. So, I'm glad for that, but it takes me a long time to get an album together. I have to think about it and do this and that. I don't write a whole lot, so I have to get together with co-writers, and I already have plans to do a lot of that. Plus, I know a lot of the songwriters in Nashville. They'll send me stuff that they think might work for me. I need to go in there and write some more long tunes.
I want to ask about a couple of my favorite of your tunes. One of my favorites is Good Rockin' One.
Really? I wrote that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about that one.
Man, when we were getting ready to do the Chest Pains record, remember that one?
Yeah.
And I wanted to put a blues shuffle on there. Let's see, which wife was I with? My second one. And I was, but the song is not really about any woman in particular. It's just a blues song. That's what I kept trying to tell my exes. It's not about her. It's not about her. It's not about you. It's just a damn blues number. And I wrote lyrics like the old guys, you know, about good rockin' woman, shake it all night long, blah, blah, blah. You know, I just use the idiom as it's meant to be used. And so, you know, that was a fun track. I had the great Anson Thunderberg on guitar, and then I had Wes Starr, a great shuffle blues drummer from Texas. I had a lot of great players on that cut, so a lot of the Chest Pains record was actually done on machines, because that was the first age of the drum machine kind of thing, and it was cheaper for us to use the drum machine and blah blah blah. So anyway, that's all. That's just the old blues song. I kind of like it though. I still like it. I listened to it in the car today when we were coming up here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Paul played it.
There's the one song that you wrote with. I think you wrote this. I'm trying to remember who you wrote this with, but it's one of your signature songs.
Mm-hmm.
Some White People Can Dance.
Yeah. That was actually, we were at Buffett's studio in Key West, and we were all just kind of hanging out. We were getting ready to go to Australia, and with the whole Buffett band, and a lot of our buddies and stuff. And we were in Buffett's studio, and I said, you guys need to write me a song, and they started writing it, actually. And then I got in with them. It was Krekel and me and Buffett, and who else? Maybe Utley, Mike Utley. And they were always making fun of me because I was always like the guy who listened to the blues all day and all that kind of stuff. So the white people, black people, kind of, stereotypes and all kind of shit. But anyway, that's where that came from. Then we took it to L.A. When we were on the way to Australia, we stopped in L.A. and cut it. We cut it with Bonnie Bramlett and about Larry Raspberry and different players. Steve Cropper on guitar from Memphis, the legendary Steve Cropper. And so then we cut it, and then we went on to Australia and hung around for about a month and came back. And then we still had the track. The track still sounded good, so I just kept it until the rest of the album was going to be put together. Anyway, that's the story of that one.
Didn't Ed Bradley have something to do with that song?
He might have. I think he might have been in the studio, like playing tambourine or something. He liked to show up at our shows a lot. Probably still does. Take his tambourine and beat it all over the place. He always liked hanging out with us. We liked hanging out with him.
Nice guy.
Great guy.
What was he like?
Just a real cool cat. Very obviously intelligent and well-spoken and worldly and all that kind of stuff. But he loved to get down and have a little fun.
Yeah.
You can't imagine, what was his name, Ted? What's his name, the newscaster?
Ted Koppel?
No, you can't imagine Ted Koppel, like, hanging out with, no. Ed, I'm sure still shows up at some of the shows.
There's a couple of songs where I thought when I heard it, I'd say, that sounds like Finger's voice. I know you had a hand in helping produce the Margaritaville Cafe in New Orleans. On the Iguana song, I Like Eating with Fingers. Is that you that says, don't get greasy now?
No, I think that was probably Joe Cabal, the sax player.
Oh, yeah? I thought that was you.
He sang, he sang that one, totally. That was funny, man. Did you ever hear that whole CD?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I found one more copy in New Orleans when I was there a couple of weeks ago. And I picked it up. Most people don't even know about that record. And I thought it was, I'm real proud of what me and Utley did with the stuff. And it was so much fun being the A&R guy, discovering these new talents and people that nobody knew about. The Iguanas were just super, man. They just decided one day to write that thing. It was pretty funny. But anyway, I've been a lucky guy. I've had a lot of fun, man. Made a lot of records. Buffett's new record is in the can and ready to come out, and we finished that up at Muscle Shoals, I might mention.
What did you think of the new album?
I love what I've heard of it.
Really?
I absolutely do. And it's been a while since one of Jimmy's records just really knocked me out. I think that a lot of his later output has been very good, but it didn't sell that well until, of course, the Alan Jackson thing came along. This one is sort of a combination of what he was doing before the country stuff again, and a little bit of a country kind of deal. He's got a great song about the Floribama.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be a hit. The production is excellent. Utley and Mac and their engineer Alan just did a fine job. Very strong, big sound. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm on 3 cuts.
Yeah.
Not playing a whole lot, but we got one rocker on there. It's called Somebody's on the Phone, my cell phone. And I got to blow my little Walter style harp on that one instead of the acoustic Buffett style. I always like to get a couple of those in.
Did you ever think that you would be back doing anything with Buffett, or did you think it probably wasn't going to happen? I have to say, I was a little surprised. You know what I mean?
Surprised that I'm doing things with him again?
Yeah.
Well, I am too. I mean, it was just sort of like this gig that I'm telling you about in Cincinnati at Reefer. A guy that I worked with, a guy, Ken Moore from Columbus, Ohio, he had booked us a gig in this huge complex. There's like a Coney Island kind of place, and they had a small amphitheater, right? Tiny amphitheater. We were playing on that stage. We played a couple sets of the damn sun. I was about to keel over. So I went backstage and said, well, we just got to rest for a while before we drive back to wherever the hell we were. And I got a phone call on my cell phone. It was McAnally. It says we know you're there, and that's the media coverage, man. Shit. And Max says, don't go anywhere. We'll send the roadies down from the big stage. The big stage is just over the hill. So he got his roadies to come down and get my amplifiers. And we had to go like through the crowd to get to the stage. But we made it. And then I got up and played Fins, and I played organ on Margaritaville. And then I played... seemed like one more tune. I can't remember. Maybe just those two. They were the encore. And that's when Jimmy said, we need to sit down and talk, because I got something I want to talk to you about. And I believe that's probably the casino deal, maybe. So we'll see. I'll find out in a couple of weeks. I called McAnally and told him that I would be in town and I would be there, and to get me some tickets, and that hopefully maybe he could ask Jimmy if he'd have a minute to sit down with me and just kind of at least tell me what is going on. Mm-hmm. But that would be great. You know, I think he's thinking about me. I think he's thinking about retirement for me and for everybody else finally, you know. And we never had any kind of regular retirement, but he's thinking about us, you know, and he'll probably get it to us in different ways.
You mean Jimmy retired?
Jimmy. Well, no, we're talking about retirement for our old asses.
Oh yeah, yeah. But do you think he's getting ready to?
You never can tell about Jimmy. He's like, I would have thought he would retired by now. I mean, he's not a young guy anymore.
He's gonna be 60.
Yes, sir. But you know what? He takes care of himself. He's vibrant. He's still mind works well. He's writing great. He's singing great. So who knows? And he likes to make money.
Yes, that's the truth.
And I think probably when you get to that point, that you have to make a lot of money.
Yeah.
Just to cover your bases and to, you know, fuel your airplanes and take care of your boats when you're not on them.
Yeah.
So you know, he's got a big pile of money he needs to make every year. I really can't predict how much longer he'll do it, but I wouldn't be surprised if he did until he was 65.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you ever, I'm sure you get tired of answering this, but do you ever think you would play a bunch of tour dates with Jimmy again?
That's a good question, man. I think he is. I think that's why he's thinking about me. He knows that the road is whipping my ass. You know, he said, he came up to me when he was on stage in Cincinnati and he said, man, you don't have to keep doing this the rest of your life. You know, he knows that the road's been whipping my butt. So, I would certainly do it. I'm still a road dog, and I can go out there and play all night if I have to. I might hurt a lot more after the gig, but I can still do it. But he's got a cool little band right now. And he's got, you know who Sonny Landreth is?
Yeah.
He's got Sonny Landreth on fucking guitar. He's got this little guy from Hawaii. I don't know his name. Jake the Snake or Jake whatever. And he's cool, man. You know, he plays that ukulele like Hendrix and dances all over the stage. He's great energy. He got rid of the dancing girls. He's got, you know, he's got it honed down to a really good tight band. Mm-hmm. And I think he's having a lot of fun with it. I think he's glad that a lot of the showbiz stuff and all the dancing girls and all of the horns and everything, I think he's glad that they're gone. Because I think he just really wanted to pare it down, and he's got a unit that can do it.
Yeah.
They're everyone on that stage is top notch, and they're giving what he wants. And they won't give him no trouble. He ain't got any fucking losers or drug addicts or anybody else.
it seems like I've interviewed just about all of the Coral Reefers, and it seems like all of them eventually start talking about you. Because they say, well, Kurt Fingers,
Right.
he's...
I got to get up there, I think.
All right.
Can we continue this?
We will.
We'll take another break and just go.
We'll be back. As I was saying, it seems like every time I talk to one of the reefers, inevitably they'll start talking about you. And, they, like Utley, all of them, really. So what I was wondering, is there any person in the band that you feel you're closer to than the others? Like you feel kind of a kinship, you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. I had several good buddies in the band, McAnally, of course, is a good friend, and I've known Mike Utley for many, many, many years. And Amy Lee was a good friend of mine, too. So, I miss seeing her on stage with Jimmy, but she's up there in Atlanta somewhere, still flying out and doing gigs and working Parrot Head stuff. I hate to give her a call, but I haven't even had a chance since I've been here. Yeah, me and Utley always hung out. Been a lot of good folks come through the band, that they were all buddies, friends of mine, in one way or another, It was, you don't spend, spill out your guts every night and go down the highway and the airplanes and all that kind of stuff and not get close to people when you work with them in that kind of situation, So they were all a real nice bunch of folks. Over the years, man, there were a couple of them that came through the band that were pretty crazy, but hell, I was pretty close to them too. So anyway.
Are there any memories, like either from the old days back in the 70s or any of the decades, really? Are there any memories that kind of stick out in your mind? Oh. Not just with the Coral Reefers, but just in music in general or in your life.
Well, I mentioned that James Taylor and his brothers, Huey and Livingston and Alex, who's now gone. Alex was a good friend of mine and a blues man. So I got to know James in Montserrat when we were recording, and he and I immediately struck up a friendship of craziness. Yeah, he was still pretty crazy at that point. He's doing really good now, but we were both nuts. But he ended up taking me out with his band. I toured a whole summer with Buffett, and then went right from Buffett's tour to James's tour, which was another 3 months. So I was toast by the time it was over with. But it was playing with James and the quality musicians that he had, like Leland Sklar on bass guitar, and Russ Conkle and Rick Murata on the drums. Don Garulnik, who unfortunately passed a few years back, great keyboard player, very nice man. He produced a lot of James's later records. That was a real treat, because I was really working with some serious players, very serious players. All of them crazy, but I think sometimes the serious ones are the crazy ones.
I like asking this question a lot. When you were out on the road with the Reefers and you weren't playing music, the downtime, what was your favorite thing to do if it's suitable for airplay?
Well, I don't know. I like to go out on a few dates every now and then with the ladies. We used to vibe a little bit out there on the road, had a few rum drinks, and we were especially bad in the 70s. Even other substances were involved. That made for a very crazy mix. But somehow we lived through it, and we had a good time, and we never got arrested, which could have happened at any point.
Is it true that the women like the harmonica players better than the other band members? And
I don't know, man. It all depends. I will tell you this, that the tongue is involved in harmonica playing quite a lot.
Yeah.
And you know, it's easier to do your little dances up there, your little tribal dance. Just a little harp in my hand. Who knows, man? I'll get too old for all that shit. I'm going to look at us anymore. They go, look at those old guys. My God, it's the young man's business now. But we would actually go do really cool shit. I mean, you know, we played a lot of time in Chicago. Used to go. I just loved going to Chicago, going out Michigan Avenue, going to record stores, and going down by the lake and the whole thing. Frisco was especially cool back in the 70s. We had a lot of fun in San Francisco, LA. LA was always fun to me. I liked it. I still do. Well, it was always something to do, man. You know, not all of it was real good for us, but we actually did do a lot of sightseeing. We saw a lot of the world, you know. I got to tour Europe a lot, actually, not with Buffett. He never really went to Europe and played, so maybe Paris and a couple bunch on his own. He never was a European phenomenon. We went to Australia twice, and that was very cool. New Zealand. And although Jimmy, you know, it was funny, we didn't sell that many tickets over there. He's really an American kind of phenomenon.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure that's just fine with him. You know, he's done quite well for himself here in the States. But I don't know. We had a lot. We had a ball. We did.
You were talking about earlier about some of your favorite harmonica players, like past and present. Is there any of the young kids out right now that caught your eye that you thought this guy's going to be big?
You know, there are several of those little guys, and I don't know them by name. Kim Wilson, my buddy, does know some of them, and you know, there's always. In music, or any art, there's always going to be somebody that comes up when you least expect it, and when you think that you've seen everything. Here comes the guy from Hawaii playing Hendrix on the ukulele.
Yeah.
So you just never know what's going to happen in music. That's one of the fun things about it. You know, there's always somebody lurking back there that nobody knows about, but it's going to be big in the next few years. It's just going to be that way.
Out of all the songs you've written, which one do you feel you're the most proud of?
Oh, I haven't written very many. I kind of, I like This so badly that it was a co-written thing with Buffett. I basically wrote it in the back of a bus, missing my wife back in Nashville during that point in the 70s. And Jimmy sort of helped me finish it. And I'm real proud of that one. Big Rig was a song that was on Havana Daydream, and it was about kind of one of them things about missing home again. I wrote it more like a bluegrass song, a country song. And when we did it in the studio with Jimmy for Havana Daydream, and it turned into more like a funky kind of R&B deal. But this is the great thing about it. I preferred it more country. And there was a great bluegrass band. They were all like professors from Washington, D.C., and they were great bluegrass players. And they, on one of their little albums, cut Big Rig, and they did it exactly like I had written it originally.
What was their name again?
The Seldom Scene.
Seldom Scene.
And it's like seldom and then S-C-E-N-E, like a scene.
I see.
And I was real proud of that one. When they cut it, of course, not many people heard it that way, but I was happy somebody got it. But anyway, there's a lot of great harmonica players that a lot of people just don't know about. You know, like Junior Wells, and there was a guy named Papa George Lightfoot that was just like completely off the wall. He was from Natchez, Trace, Mississippi, around Natchez. And he's still one of my heroes. He blew more like a trumpet, this phrasing. And also my old good friend who just passed away. I called him my dad. He called me his son. Was Sam Myers. Great harmonica player. He used to play drums with Elmore James in the 50s. Just an incredible style of harmonica. It was really much more like a trumpet or a horn. And he taught me how to do that and think in those terms. And anyway, Sam, we had Sam for a long time. He finally got sick, got old, and died recently. But we, all the blues players in Jackson and surrounding parts of Mississippi came down for the funeral. And we all did our favorite Sam Myers songs. And it was good. It was a good tribute. He was an important influence on me. And, it's like Junior Wells, man. He was a great blues harmonica player with his own style. He played in his later years, played a lot with Buddy Guy. They used to go together and stuff. But anyway, Junior passed a couple of years ago. We're all getting old. I'm next in line. Me and my buddies.
Somebody told me about this thing called Fingers Taylor and the Lady Fingers.
Yes.
Tell me about that. I'm so intrigued.
Well, we were doing a tour. I don't know which one it was. I'm not even quite sure. It was in the 80s. And Jimmy wanted me to open the shows for the tour with an all-female blues band and call it the Lady Fingers Review. So I said, well, that sounds fine to me. I said, I'm not going to ride on the bus with them. they'll gang up on you, man. But I opened the shows. They were all really good players. Guitars, Debbie Davies on guitars, Janica Magnus, who's a real popular blues singer in L.A. now, has been for years. It was a real good crew of players. They were female, and it was a kind of a gimmick, but they held their own in any arena, especially playing blues.
Are there any live recordings that survive? No?
I don't know.
Maybe.
There's got to be. There was a lot of film taken in the last 3 decades, and I'm sure they've got some lady fingers. Somewhere.
So what do you look for in a woman?
In a woman?
Yeah, I'm serious.
Money. No, man, I don't know. But I like down-home girls. I like Southern girls. By and large. I like it. That's what I like about the South. That old song?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in my older age. I have grown attracted to older women. I didn't think I ever would because I was always like going for the young girls in my younger days. And loved each and every one of them that I spent time with, lived with, married, whatever. But nowadays, I see the old gals over there, and I go, you know what? I'm an old guy. I need to stay with my own kind. You know what I mean? I've got a couple of real good ones that take care of me wherever I'm at.
When you're not playing blues, and we've talked so much about the music side of you, I know that you were a journalism major. Mm-hmm. Well, tell us about some of the other things you do, like when you're not playing music, like
things that I do for hobbies. You mean?
Yeah, like hobbies, exactly.
I have a gigantic CD and record collection, and I love to make compilations for my friends.
Yeah.
Who are it's kind of what I like to do, and I don't do it for money or anything. I just do it to turn people on to music.
Yeah.
That's all I ever wanted to do, I think, in the first place. If I could be a DJ for the rest of my life, I think I'd be more than happy playing blues, and who knows? Maybe one day I'll get one of them serious radio gigs.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I love it.
I do too.
It's so much fun.
Yeah, I know. I love, like I said, I'm sure you do too, like turning people on to stuff they haven't heard and you think they might like it. And even if they don't like it, well, at least they heard it.
They're wrong.
You're wrong, you motherfucker.
Well, Fingers, this program, thanks to technology, goes out all over the world. So my question for you, Mr. Greg Fingers Taylor, the Harpoon Man, the man with the movement, below the belt. The man who can. What would you, Fingers Taylor, like to say to the world?
Y'all quit feuding and fighting. Get rid of your bombs. Try and figure it out. Trim back on them religions a little bit, and we won't have so much trouble.
Well, Fingers, thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure. Indeed.